All right, folks. Now we're going to talk next about the profit and loss or the statement of activity. Those names can be used interchangeably, although for a not for profit, the correct term is statement of activity. This report tells you over a period of time how the organization has done. Typically, organizations will produce these monthly. Sometimes the board will receive them quarterly, depending on the size of the organization or the frequency of the reporting that they do. And this is just the place to see how financially successful the organization was during that period of time. I'm going to go ahead and show a P&L that we have created here that is a typical example of what you could look at for your particular organization. So here's a P&L that we have in QuickBooks. I'm logged into the accounting software right now so that we can see the full document and be able to see a few of the options that we would have while we're attempting to access it. And as you can see on this document, the first section starts out with the income. And in this example, we've got program income, fundraising, and grant. We broke out those three with a total income here. And one of the things you'll note, and as I had discussed previously, comparisons are very helpful. And here we have this year's data, 2026. We also have 2025's information in here too. And you can see that income is down in 2026. And as we come on down the list, you'll see these are some common categories. We see salaries and wages, taxes, benefits, and on down the line. And this is where you can get an opportunity to see what each of these categories cost this organization in the month of April. So you can see their rent stayed the same, their payroll expenses have gone up since last year by quite a bit. And these are the things that you want to be. It's important when you're getting this data from your board, and I'm sorry, from the internal accounting team, that you get it in a way that you can see these comparisons. These numbers, in and of themselves, aren't particularly helpful unless you're extremely familiar with what this number is supposed to look like. I don't know if 67,000 is a lot or a little for payroll unless I see what payroll has been historically, what it was last year. A lot of times you can get this report to give it to you by month, and you can look at these particular areas. Payroll is a big one to take a look at. That's always the largest expense for any of these organizations, and always look at the biggest numbers first and then work our way down. We could see by adding this percentage column out here, I can just at a glance see the things that would be the most interest to take a look at. I might want to follow up and ask why payroll has gone up by 30%. It's also something we might already know. We could see this one's gone up by 518%. Although it's not a huge figure on their P&L, it still might be worth asking about. Outside services has also gone up, and merchandise. And you could see any of these that are zero, it's likely business as usual in those areas. That's not to say they might not be worth digging into, but we'd want to focus on the ones where there's big changes first. Maybe they shouldn't be spending this much more money and you need to be asking them about it. Or maybe you just need to ask out and find out what's going on. And I think that's the idea of using this profit and loss is now we get to look at this month over month. You can also look at this year over year. And the big figure, of course, always to come and focus in on these is the net operating income. Okay, this is how much money your not for profit organization has brought in to be able to sustain their mission for this particular month. So of course, I made these numbers up. This not for profit had a very good month. considering the total amount of revenues that they have. But you can see one of the things I did just for comparative purposes is to show they had a significantly better month last year. So this is a bit of a flag. Is this a trend? Is this a problem? Was this a one-time thing? And these are the sorts of things you're going to want to look out for when you're looking at these documents. I could see here, even if I look at nothing else on this document and I just come all the way down to this figure, which is a pretty good idea too, to just come down to the bottom here, I could immediately see 37 is less than 64. It's actually 42% less than it was last year for this same month. And it's always worth asking that question, why is this 42% less? And for that, you will probably get a very logical, reasonable answer. And then you're able to get some comfort with it and move on. But that's the idea with being in the uh, treasury role on the finance committee or any of the finance committee members is to ask those particular questions so that you can get an answer. In any of these accounting systems, we can dig into these transactions. We could give you a list in great detail on why these things changed. And all of this stuff could be pulled out of here to be able to tell that. So that's the keys to the profit and loss. A couple of other things I just want to show while we're in here. As we mentioned earlier, any transaction that comes in has to hit either the balance sheet or the profit and loss here. So when a transaction, if I don't properly classify something and it doesn't end up here, then it has to sit on the balance sheet and vice versa, which is why you want to make sure you're reviewing both of those documents. It's very common to just review this one. A lot of board reporting packets, this is the primary focus, and I think that's not a great plan. You want to look at both. You want to look at both of these. Make sure you're looking at both this document and the other one, because then you'll be able to catch any mistakes more readily by looking at both of them. And I think, again, just have these pulled right out of the accounting system. This system is designed in a very explicit way to meet those obligations and demands and to make sure that it's that clear. There's other pieces we would want to look at if we're really going to dig in deep. Like we'd also want to see the actual reconciliations for those bank accounts. But that's something we can cover in the next topics. Before we jump out, I just want to review a couple of things inside these P&Ls. There gets to be a desire to know a lot more about a lot of the things going on in the organization, which is, of course, helpful. What is the program revenue made up of? How are the programs doing? How are we doing against the grants that we're receiving? And all of that information is available in these accounting tools if it's structured in that way. I have the opportunity right here to be able to modify this report and tell me immediately because we structure the data in this way, you can see now I have this broken out. You can see this is the 0101 kids program. Kids program did 48,000 this year. And we can have, these are salaries and wages just related to the kids program. And we come down to the bottom, I can see, well, the kids program alone made this amount of money. Okay. And when we pull the data in this way, we can get, now I've got the adult program here, the annual gala. This is the most popular question that we're always getting. Is our event doing? And I think this is because organizations spend a lot of money on these annual gala parties, and folks want to make sure that it is profitable, that the sponsorships are actually balancing out against the expenses for the big fancy parties that get thrown. They pretty much always do, but every once in a while you'll see where folks end up hiring outside services or they spend a lot of money on the party that they end up spending, getting all the money away. Big day of giving we broke out here. Of course, you could break these out unlimitedly. And then the last one is administration. This is a really important one. As we see within the admin column, this is where all the things that are not related to either the kids program, fundraising are going. The IRS, when you complete your Form 990, requires a breakout, which is fundraising, program, and admin. And you can see that I broke up this statement of activity into those three categories of admin, and then this one is fundraising. O2 is fundraising, fundraising for annual gala, program, and program. And this allows you to immediately be able to tell how things are going from that perspective. We could see that they spent $25,000 on administration, and that is up by 33% from last year. I'm sorry, we spent 32,000 this year, so and only 24,000 on admin. So there was an increase by 32% in admin costs for this organization, and that's one of the ways you can, using these reports, you could really start to get an idea of what's going on.